As we were just here talking, we have some news, a transition of power alert. We have learned that Betsy Devos has accepted the nomination as Secretary of Education in Donald Trump's cabinet. Okay, she is a charter school advocate. So now we know that it's not going to be Michelle Rhee. This is someone who is a charter school advocate, as Michelle Rhee was. What does that say about the priorities here, do you think, in terms of who he's appealing to and maybe what this means?
Well, I think Donald Trump has said all along that he's going to take on Washington. He's going to take on the teachers' unions in some way, probably. Betsy DeVos is a longtime advocate for that. Charter schools are very important to the Republican Party and part of our platform. So this is a good pick, and it's another woman.
Brianna, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Bakari.
If I may, I think that this pick is a bit ironic. I mean, one of the things that Donald Trump ran on was draining the proverbial swamp, and here he chooses his Secretary of Education is one of his largest donors. I was listening to the descriptions that we use to describe Donald Trump as somewhat creating policy based upon the last person he spoke to and him being a negotiator. Donald Trump is also very transactional. And what we see here in this pick for Secretary of Education, one of the things that everyone knows in the Republican Party is that you have to go through the Devos to make sure that you get those checks in. And so this draining the swamp versus this pick for Secretary of Education is very clearly transactional and kind of flies in the face of this new mantra of draining the swamp.
But it seems like this is even what President-elect Obama found as he was coming in. It was supposed to be a different kind of politics. But when it comes down to it and you need someone to have institutional knowledge and to do the job, you really only have a certain pool to pick from, right, David?
Right, and the people who are trying to influence your campaign have something to gain from that as well. They have policy positions that they're pushing, as she does. And, but I think Trump also is someone who's promised to break up traditional ways of thinking. Charter school movement has been around for a while now. We see it in D.C. even, where Michelle Rhee was the chancellor. But, this is something that you're going to try something different if the status quo is not working. And so I think he's committed to that, or the party is committed to that. There's another way to say, we're going to try it outside the box, try different ideas.
Do you think, I wonder, Bakari, as you listen to some of what Donald Trump has been saying lately, he's brushed aside questions about the conflicts of interest when it comes to his businesses and really if there's going to be this firewall. Some people have suggested there's no way for there to be a firewall if his children are in charge of his business empire. What do you make of him saying, basically, people knew what I was up to personally, professionally, during the election when they voted for me? This really doesn't matter.
And he also made the strange statement in the New York Times sit-down meeting that he had that because I'm president, I can do it. There are no conflicts of interest because they don't apply to the president. It was eerie because it sounded relatively Nixonian. And every single day we have these new stories that come out. Oh, the irony of Donald Trump getting paid $150,000 to his foundation from a Ukrainian oligarch for a speech that he gave. I mean, these ethical gray areas that he plays in on a day-by-day basis will continue to have these conflicts of interest. And unless he just divests completely from Trump Enterprises, which we know will not be the case, he's going to continue to have these. We have a story today of Donald Trump Jr. actually in October going to Paris to meet with Russia and talk about Syria. I mean, we just have a lot of these different conflicts that involve his children.
Yeah.
Ivanka Trump sitting in on meetings, and it's just a big cloud. And I think this is going to be our generation's Nixon. It depends on the journalists of how we cover it.
We will see how this turns out. Much time ahead of us. Bakari Sellers, thank you so much. Jackie, David, Carol, Kevin, thank you. Governor Nikki Haley was once a major critic of the president-elect, as we were just discussing. She called him out on his campaign rhetoric, also for his refusal to release his taxes, among other things we should mention. So does today's nomination bridge the divide between Donald Trump and the never-Trump Republicans? We'll be asking one after the break. Plus, it is the strongest chokehold yet on